I never thought a single glass of whiskey could shatter the fragile walls I'd built around my heart. But there I was, staring at the amber liquid in my tumbler like it held the answers to a lifetime of buried regrets. My wife, Sarah, had left for her sisters in Chicago that afternoon, her suitcase wheels rumbling down the driveway like a final judgment, leaving behind a house that echoed with the ghosts of our fading marriage. And then Leo, my stepson, all of 18 and carrying the weight of the world in his quiet green eyes, knocked on my study door just as the clock struck midnight. His voice soft but urgent. "Dad, you okay in there?" I heard something break. That something was the photo frame I'd hurled against the wall. The one of Sarah and me on our wedding day in the Smoky Mountains. Her smile radiant and mine a mask of desperate hope. Leo stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his bare feet silent on the hardwood, wearing nothing but those faded Levi's and a threadbare Michigan Wolverines tee that clung to his lean frame like a second skin. He didn't flinch at the shards of glass glittering on the floor. Instead, he knelt down, his hands steady as he picked them up one by one, avoiding my gaze like he knew the storm raging inside me was too volatile to touch. "It's not her fault," he murmured, but his words hung in the air like smoke, because we both knew it was a lie we'd been telling ourselves for years. By dawn, as the first pink streaks bled across the Indiana sky outside our split-level ranch in Bloomington, Leo and I were still talking, or rather, unraveling. He'd perched on the edge of my desk, legs dangling like a kid confessing a schoolyard secret, while I slumped in my leather chair, the whiskey forgotten, but its burn lingering in my throat. It started innocently enough, Sarah's endless business trips, the way she'd come home smelling of hotel shampoo and someone else's cologne, her laughter forced like a bad audition. But Leo saw through it all, had seen it long before I did. "She's not the villain here. Nick," he said, using my name for the first time in years. "Nick, not Dad." Like he was peeling back the layers of our pretend family to reveal the raw, aching truth beneath. And in that moment, with the world still asleep beyond the windows, I felt the first crack in my resolve, the forbidden pull toward the boy who'd become more son than step, more confidant than kin. That conversation lingered like humidity after a summer storm, thick and inescapable, as the days blurred into weeks. Sarah extended her stay in Chicago, citing family emergencies that felt more like alibis, and Leo and I fell into a rhythm that was equal parts comfort and catastrophe. Mornings began with coffee on the back porch, the air heavy with the scent of fresh-cut grass from our neighbors' lawns, where kids on bikes shouted about Little League tryouts and dads fired up grills for weekend barbecues. Leo would scroll through his phone, showing me memes about college applications. He was set to start at Indiana University in the fall, majoring in environmental science, dreaming of saving the dying wetlands out by Lake Monroe, while I pretended not to notice how his laugh lit up the spaces Sarah's absences had hollowed out. But beneath the normalcy, tension coiled like a spring. I'd catch myself watching him too long, the way his dark hair fell in waves when he bent over his sketchbook, doodling fantastical maps of uncharted forests, or how his shoulders tensed when he mentioned his biological dad, a ghost of a man who'd bailed when Leo was 6, leaving behind nothing but a stack of unpaid child support notices and a baseball glove gathering dust in the garage. "He wasn't like you," Leo said one evening over takeout pizza from Michelangelo's, the cheese stringing between slices like the threads of our unspoken bond. "You stuck around. Even when it got hard." His eyes met mine then, green as the Wabash River after rain. And I felt it, the spark. Dangerous and undeniable. The kind that poets warn you about, but life insists on delivering anyway. I try to bury it, of course. threw myself into work at the university library, shelving dusty tomes on American history while my mind replayed forbidden what-ifs. I'm Nicholas Hale, 42, a mild-mannered archivist with a receding hairline and a penchant for flannel shirts from LL Bean, married to a woman who'd once made my heart race like a '72 Mustang on Route 66. But lately, the only acceleration came from stolen glances at Leo, from a way he'd bum my shoulder during our walks along the trails at Lake Griffey, joking about Bigfoot sightings to mask the deeper silences. "You're not gay, Nick," I'd tell my reflection in the bathroom mirror each night, scrubbing my face raw under the fluorescent light. "You're just lonely." That's all. Lies. All of them. But necessary ones in a town where Sunday sermons at First Presbyterian still whispered about traditional values, and the pride flag on Main Street was more token than triumph. Then came a night that changed everything. The kind of humid July evening where cicadas screamed like sirens and the power flickered from an incoming thunderstorm. Sarah called to say she'd be gone another week, her voice tinny over the line, laced with that Midwestern politeness that hid sharper edges. "Take care of Leo for me." "Okay. He's got that big interview tomorrow." The interview was with a conservation group in Indianapolis, a stepping stone to his dreams. But Leo had been pacing the kitchen like a caged wolf, his nerves frayed from the pressure of being the good kid in our fractured home. I found him in the living room after a call, curled on the couch with his knees to his chest, the TV droning some rerun of The Office that neither of us was watching. "Can't sleep?" I asked, sinking down beside him, the cushions dipping under my weight. The room smelled of microwave popcorn and his cedarwood cologne, a scent that had started infiltrating my dreams. He shook his head, not looking up. "What if I screw it up? What if I'm not?" Enough. His voice cracked on the last word, and something in me broke wide open. Without thinking, I reached out, pulling him into a hug, the first real one since he was 13, and I'd coached his Pee Wee soccer team through a championship loss. He stiffened at first, then melted against me, his breath warm against my neck, his heartbeat syncing with mine in a rhythm that felt ancient, inevitable. We stayed like that as thunder rumbled outside, rain lashing the windows like accusations. His hand found mine in the dim glow of the lamp, fingers intertwining with a gentleness that belied the storm inside us both. "Nick," he whispered, pulling back just enough to search my face, his eyes wide with a vulnerability that mirrored my own. I think I'm falling for someone. And it's terrifying." My throat tightened, the air between us charged like the lightning cracking overhead. "Who?" I managed, though part of me already knew, dreaded, hoped. "You," he said simply, as if it were the most natural confession in the world. And in that suspended moment, with the world washing away outside, I didn't pull away. I leaned in, our foreheads touching, breaths mingling in a promise neither of us could voice. It wasn't a kiss, not yet, but it was the edge of one, the precipice where family fractured into something deeper, more dangerous. The morning after brought clarity's cruel light, sunlight slicing through the blinds like Judgment Day. Leo aced his interview, coming home with a grin that lit up the cul-de-sac, high-fiving the neighbor kids who were tossing a frisbee on the lawn. But I couldn't meet his eyes over breakfast, my cereal turning to paste in my mouth as memories of the night flooded back. What had we done? What were we becoming? I spent the day at the library, burying myself in microfiche reels of Civil War letters, tales of forbidden loves between soldiers that echoed too closely to my own unraveling heart. That evening, as Leo chattered about the job offer, a summer internship tracking endangered bats in the Hoosier National Forest, I felt the first stirrings of panic. This is wrong, I thought. glancing at the wedding band on my finger. Tarnished now like our vows. Sarah texted sporadically. Photos of her sister's new puppy. Emojis masking the distance growing between us. But it was Leo's presence that anchored me. His easy laughter during our impromptu game of catch in a backyard. The baseball glove finally dusted off, thwacking against his palm like a heartbeat. Then the secrets started surfacing, slow at first, like silt rising in a stirred pond. It began with a letter, slipped under the door of my study one afternoon when I came home from errands at Kroger. No envelope, just folded notebook paper with Leo's handwriting. I found this in Mom's drawer. Thought you should see it. Inside was a printout of emails, dated back 2 years, between Sarah and a man named Brandon, her coworker from the ad agency in downtown Indy. Phrases like "miss our late nights" and "can't wait to feel your arms again" leaped off the page, each one a dagger to my gut. Betrayal. The word tasted like bile as I crumpled the paper, my vision blurring with hot, angry tears. How long? Why? And Leo? How had he known? I confronted him in the garage that night, the air thick with the scent of motor oil and rain-soaked earth from the open door. "You went through her things?" I accused, voice low and trembling, the emails clutched in my fist like evidence in a trial. His face crumpled, green eyes flashing with hurt. I was looking for my birth certificate for the internship paperwork. It fell out. "Nick, I didn't mean to. Stop calling me that." I snapped, the words exploding before I could reel them in. "I'm your dad, Leo. Or have you forgotten that too? And whatever this thing between us is..." The garage light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made him look younger, smaller, like the boy I'd met at 14. All gangly limbs and guarded smiles when Sarah brought him into our lives after her divorce. He stepped back as if slapped, his jaw tightening. "You think this is easy for me? Pretending every day that I don't see how she hurts you? That I don't feel things I shouldn't?" His voice broke, and he turned away, shoulders heaving. Maybe I did forget. Maybe we're both better off that way. He stormed out into the dusk, the screen door slamming like a gunshot, leaving me alone with the ghosts of what-ifs and the hum of the refrigerator from the house. I didn't sleep that night, pacing the kitchen linoleum worn smooth by years of family dinners that now felt like rehearsals for heartbreak. By morning, Leo was gone, off to a friend's place in town, his duffel bag stuffed with clothes. A note on the counter, "Needs space." Back from Mom's return. "Love, Ed." Sarah came home 3 days later, her hugs perfunctory, her excuses polished like costume jewelry. We didn't talk about the emails. I couldn't bring myself to shatter the illusion just yet. Instead, I watched her unpack, folding blouses that smelled faintly of Brandon's aftershave, wondering how I'd missed the signs. Dinner that night was silent torture, Leo still absent, the empty chair at the table a chasm. "Where's Leo?" she asked finally, spearing a carrot with unnecessary force. "With friends," I lied, the words sticking like gravel. "College stuff." She nodded, but her eyes, blue and evasive, darted away, and I wondered if she sensed the fracture lines spiderwebbing through her home. The days that followed were a masterclass in compartmentalization, the kind of Midwestern stoicism that gets you through blizzards and bad harvests alike. By day, I was Nicholas Hale, devoted husband and stepfather, volunteering at the local food pantry on Saturday mornings, handing out canned goods to families down on their luck while exchanging small talk about the Colts' slim playoff chances. "Gotta believe in comebacks, right, Nick, old mister?" Harlan would say, clapping me on the back with hands rough as sandpaper from decades in the auto plant. I nod, force a smile, all while my mind wandered to Leo's laugh echoing across the outfield during those long-ago games. The way he'd sprint for a fly ball with the grace of someone born to chase horizons. Nights were harder, the house settling around me like a sigh. Sarah's snores from our king-size bed, a reminder of the intimacy we'd lost somewhere between her promotions and my quiet unraveling. I'd slip downstairs to the den, nursing black coffee and scrolling through Leo's Instagram. Public posts of him hiking the dunes at Indiana Dune State Park. Captions about finding my path overlaid on sun-dappled trails. No mentions of me. No hints of the confession that had redrawn our boundaries in invisible ink. But there he was, alive and vibrant, and it both soothed and stung, like salt in a fresh wound. Then Brandon entered the picture, not as a specter in emails, but flesh and blood, pulling up in a sleek black Audi one crisp October afternoon when Sarah had invited the team over for a backyard barbecue. I'd been weeding the flower beds, Sarah's petunias drooping under the weight of neglect, when the engine purred to a stop at the curb. Out stepped he mid-30s, all sharp jawline and designer polos, with a handshake that lingered too long and a laugh that boomed like he owned the block. "Nick, right? Sarah's told me all about you," he said, his grin wolfish, eyes appraising me like I was the help. "All good things, I hope," I replied, wiping dirt from my palms, my voice steady despite the churn in my stomach. Sarah fluttered around him like a moth to flame, fetching beers from the cooler, her hand brushing his arm in that casual way that screamed intimacy. The other team members milled about, women in sundresses gossiping about client pitches. A couple of guys debating fantasy football, but Brandon held court, regaling them with tales of closing deals in Manhattan, as if Bloomington were just a pit stop on his road to glory. Leo showed up halfway through, fashionably late from a study group at the Union, his backpack slung over one shoulder, hair tousled from the wind. He froze in the gate when he saw the crowd, his gaze locking on Brandon like a deer spotting headlights. "Hey," he said to me first, voice neutral, but his eyes, those damn eyes, held a question I couldn't answer. I introduced him around, watching as Brandon sized him up, extending a hand with, "So you're the famous Leo? Sarah says you're following in her footsteps, saving the planet one bat at a time." Leo shook it briefly, his smile tight. Something like that. The rest of the afternoon unfolded in a haze of small talk and sizzling burgers on the Weber. But tension hummed beneath it all, electric as the static before a squall. I caught Leo watching Brandon too, his expression unreadable. And later, when the guests thinned out, he cornered me by the garage. "Who's the suit?" he asked, nodding toward where Brandon was helping Sarah load leftovers into her BMW. "A coworker," I said, too curt, the lie bitter on my tongue. "Why?" He shrugged, but his jaw clenched. "Just doesn't seem like your crowd." There was an undercurrent there. Jealousy? Protectiveness? It twisted something deep in me, a knot of guilt and longing I couldn't untangle. That night, after Sarah crashed early, tipsy from too many seltzers, Leo and I ended up on the porch swing, the chains creaking softly under our weight. The air was cool now, leaves turning gold and crimson along the street. Neighbors' jack-o'-lanterns glowing like beacons in the dark. "You deserve better," he said out of nowhere, his knee brushing mine in the confined space. Then her lies. Then, this half-life. I turned to him, the swing stilling. "And what about us? Leo, what do we deserve?" The words escaped before I could cage them. Raw and reckless. He looked at me then, really looked, the porch light haloing his face in soft amber. "Each other," he whispered, and this time, when he leaned in, I didn't stop him. Our lips met tentative at first, a brush of uncertainty, then deepening with the pent-up force of months, years of denial. It was salt and sweetness. his hand cupping my cheek, my fingers threading through his hair, the world narrowing to the taste of him, like autumn apples and unspoken promises. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, the swing resuming its gentle rock as if nothing had irrevocably changed. But everything had. The kiss lingered like a bruise, tender and throbbing, as we navigated the minefield of normalcy in its wake. Leo threw himself into his internship, commuting to the forest preserve 3 days a week, coming home sun-kissed and exhausted, regaling me with stories of mist-netting bats at dusk, their wings fragile as tissue paper. I'd listen from the kitchen table, stirring chili on the stove, Sarah's favorite, though she barely touched it anymore, feeling the domesticity warp around us into something intimate, illicit. Sarah noticed the shift. Of course. Her questions grew pointed. You too seem. Closed lately. We'd brush it off with laughs about bonding over guy stuff, but her eyes narrowed, suspicion brewing like storm clouds over the plains. And then, the misunderstanding that nearly destroyed us, a late-night call from Leo's phone, while he was out on a trail survey. I answered, bleary-eyed, only to hear Brandon's voice, slurred and insistent. Leo? Babe, pick up. We need to talk about what happened last week. The line went dead, but the words echoed, a grenade in my chest. Babe, what happened? My mind reeled, piecing together fragments. Leo's guarded looks at the barbecue, the way he'd flinched at Brandon's touch. Had I misread everything? Was this some cruel twist? Leo entangled with a man, tearing my marriage apart? Rage boiled over when Leo got home at dawn. Mud-caked boots tracking across the foyer. What the hell is going on with you and Brandon? I demanded, the phone thrust in his face like Exhibit A. His face drained of color, confusion morphing to horror. What? Nick, that's not. Don't lie to me, I roared, voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling, the house waking to our fury. I heard him. Babe, are you? God. Leo, is this some revenge thing? Pay me back for her. He recoiled as if burned, tears welling in those green depths. You're unbelievable. You think I'd, after everything. He shoved past me, grabbing his keys from the hook. Brandon called the wrong number. He was drunk, dialing from a list or something. But go ahead, believe the worst. It's what you do best. The door slammed, tires screeching as he peeled out, leaving me in a silence that roared louder than any argument. I collapsed onto the stairs, head in hands, the weight of my accusation crushing me. Misunderstanding, deep, lacerating, born of my own insecurities. I projected my fears onto him, the boy who'd offer me salvation in a storm. Sarah found me there hours later, her hand on my shoulder tentative. Trouble in paradise? She asked, but there was no warmth, only calculation. I looked up, the emails flashing in my mind like lightning. When were you going to tell me about Brandon? Her face hardened, the mask slipping. It's not what you think. He's complicated. We were over months ago. Liar, I whispered, standing on legs like jelly. But I'm done pretending. The fallout was biblical, a reckoning that stripped our home bare. Sarah packed that afternoon, her movements efficient, folding silk blouses into a Louis Vuitton suitcase with the precision of a surgeon. This was coming, she said, not meeting my eyes as she zipped it shut. We stopped being us a long time ago. Nick. Leo was the glue, but even that's fraying. Leo, I echoed, bitterness rising. You mean the sun you barely see because you're chasing deals and... Him. She paused, hand on the doorknob, her blue eyes finally locking on mine, tired, regretful. I love him, in my way, but I never loved you like that. Not really. The admission hung there, A guillotine's blade, severing the last threads. She left with a kiss on my cheek, cool as autumn wind, the door clicking shut like a period at the end of our story. I didn't cry then. The tears came later, in the empty house, where echoes mocked me from every corner. Leo didn't return for 2 days, and when he did, it was with a duffel and a resolve that chilled me. "I'm moving into the dorms early," he announced, dropping his bag in the foyer, his voice flat as the Indiana cornfields. "IU orientation starts next week. Figured it'd be easier this way." Easier, I stepped forward, desperate to bridge the chasm. "Leo, I was wrong. About the call. About everything. Please." He held up a hand, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "You weren't entirely wrong. Nick. Yeah. The call was a wrong number. Brandon's got a habit of drunk dialing half his contacts. Some app glitch or whatever. But the rest? You saw something in me that scared you. Because it scares me too." He swallowed hard, glancing at the family portrait on the mantel, us 3 at Christmas in the Rockies. Smiles frozen in time. This, us, it's not just a phase. It's real. And it's ruining everything. My heart hammered, a drumbeat of dread and desire. "Then let's figure it out. Together. No more hiding." He laughed, a hollow sound that twisted like a knife. "Figured out? You're twice my age. Married. We're married to my mom. The world's not some indie flick where the stepdad and stepson ride off into the sunset. It's Bloomington, Indiana. Church potlucks and whispers at the gas station." He shouldered his bag, heading for the door. "I need to breathe. Without you suffocating me." The word suffocating echoed as his truck rumbled away, taillights fading into the twilight. I stood there until numbness set in, then called the only person who might understand, my old college buddy. "Nicholas, wait." "No, that's me." Nicholas Hale. Adrift. Instead, I dialed Brandon's number, pulled from Sarah's contacts in a fit of masochism. He answered on the 3rd ring, voice wary. "Nick, this about Sarah?" "No," I said, surprising myself. "About Leo." The wrong number. "Tell me it was nothing." A pause, then a sigh heavy with secrets. "It was a glitch. Man. But, look, Leo's a good kid. Smart. He interned with a friend of mine last summer. Conservation overlap. That's how I got his number in my phone. Nothing more. Another beat. But if I were you, I'd let him go. Whatever's brewing there, it's a powder keg." His words were a lifeline and a curse, confirming the innocence I'd trampled but underscoring the peril. I hung up, staring at the wall where the wedding photo had once hung. Now, just a pale rectangle of regret. Weeks blurred into a gray November fog. Leo's absence a hollow in the house that no amount of takeout from the corner cone could fill. I threw myself into work, curating an exhibit on LGBTQ plus history in the Midwest. Ironic, given my own buried truths, sourcing letters from the Kinsey Institute archives about men like me, loving in shadows during the AIDS crisis, fighting for scraps of visibility. One evening, as sleet tapped the library windows, a visitor wandered in, Brandon, coat dusted with ice, holding a manila envelope. "Peace offering," he said, sliding it across the circulation desk. Inside were printouts, not of Sarah's emails, but of Leo's internship reports, glowing endorsements from his supervisors. "Kid's got talent. Thought you should see it. And, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. About everything." I nodded, throat tight. "Why are you doing this?" He shrugged, eyes softening. "Because I know what it's like to love someone you can't have. Sarah was my mistake, youthful idiocy. But you and Leo, that's not a mistake. It's just complicated." His candor cracked something in me. And I found myself spilling it all, the kiss, the accusation, the fear. Brandon listened without judgment. A stranger turned confessor in the fluorescent hush. Tell him the truth, he said finally. All of it. Before it's too late. Emboldened, I drove to the IU campus that night. The wipers slashing through the downpour. Heart pounding like bass at a hoedown. Leo's dorm was a hive of freshman chaos. Pizza boxes in hallways. Laughter spilling from open doors. But he answered my knock in sweats and a hoodie. Surprise etching his features. Nick, what are you? We need to talk, I said, stepping inside before he could shut me out. His room was a snapshot of dreams deferred, posters of Yellowstone wolves, a half-packed suitcase for winter break, books on ecology stacked like fortifications. He crossed his arms, wary. About everything. I sat on his bed, the mattress dipping under me, and let it pour out, the exhibit. The letters from men who'd loved despite the odds. My own confession. I've known I was gay since college. Leo. Buried it for Sarah. For the white picket fence dream. But you woke it up. And I'm terrified, but I won't run anymore. His defenses crumbled, shoulders slumping as he sank beside me. I thought you hated me. After the fight. Never, I whispered, taking his hand. I hate myself. For hurting you. Tears tracked down his cheeks then, and he leaned into me, our embrace fierce against the storm howling outside. I love you, Nick. Not as a dad. As you. The words unlocked something primal, and we clung there, two souls adrift in a sea of societal shoulds, finding harbor in each other. But peace was fleeting. The climax crashed down like a nor'easter the following week, during Thanksgiving break when Leo came home for turkey and trimmings. Sarah arrived unannounced, keys still in her possession, bearing pies from her sister's bakery and a smile brittle as pie crust. The dinner was a farce, small talk about weather and Wolverines games, the elephant in the room trumpeting silently. But when Leo and I shared a glance too lingering, her fork clattered against the plate. What's going on here? She demanded, eyes darting between us. Leo, you're glowing like you won the lottery. And Nick, God, you're looking at him like. Leo stiffened, but I couldn't let him shoulder it. Sarah, I said, voice steady. It's over. Between us. Has been for a while. Her face twisted shock, then fury. You too? Oh, hell no. That's sick. The word landed like a slap, echoing the sermons I'd heard growing up in rural Ohio. The pamphlets from Focus on the family warning of family corruption. Mom, Leo started, but she was on her feet, chair scraping back. Don't. Just. Don't. I'll leave for a few months. And this, my own son, and she choked on a sob, grabbing her coat. I knew you were distant, Nick, but this, stealing my boy. It's not stealing, Leo cried, standing too, his voice breaking. It's love. Real love. Something you never gave either of us. The door slammed, her tires spinning gravel as she fled into the night. Silence descended, heavy as lead, Leo collapsing into my arms, sobs racking his frame. She'll never forgive us. Maybe not, I murmured, holding him close. But we forgive ourselves. Winter settled over Bloomington like a shroud, snow blanketing the rooftops and muffling the world's judgments. Sarah filed for divorce the day after Christmas, her lawyer's letter arriving with the precision of a drone strike. Irreconcilable differences. No fault, but the subtext screamed betrayal. She moved to an apartment in Indianapolis, closer to Brandon, though rumor had it they'd fizzled. Two flames too volatile to sustain. In contact with Leo dwindled to terse texts about tuition payments and holiday cards signed in her looping cursive. Leo, and I navigated the wreckage with cautious optimism, our bond deepening in the quiet spaces she'd left. He deferred his internship for the spring, taking a part-time gig at the campus arboretum, pruning saplings under gray skies while I curated panels on queer resilience for the library's Pride Month preview. Evenings were ours, cooking meatloaf from my mom's faded Betty Crocker recipe, watching Brokeback Mountain on the couch with a bowl of popcorn between us, not for the tragedy, but for the echo of hidden hearts. We'd talk for hours, Leo's head in my lap, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on his scalp, unraveling the threads of our pasts. He confessed his own secrets one snow-glazed night, bundled on the porch with mugs of spiked hot cocoa, the streetlights haloing flakes like fireflies in reverse. I knew about Mom and Brandon before the emails. Overheard her on the phone last summer, crying to her sister. Didn't say anything because I didn't want to blow up the family. And me? I crushed on you since sophomore year, when you helped with that history project on Stonewall. Thought it was just admiration. Then it turned into this ache. I pulled him closer, the swing creaking under our shared weight. I felt it too. That pull. Like gravity, but scarier. We kissed then, slow and sure. The cold nipping at our noses, but warmth blooming where our bodies met. Affirmation, not desperation. Yet conflicts lingered, sharp as icicles. Town whispers started. Mrs. Ellis from the book club cornering me at the co-op. Heard Sarah's heartbroken. Something about Leo. Acting out. I brushed it off with a laugh. But inside, fury simmered. Then came the call from Leo's advisor. Voice laced with concern. Nicholas. Leo's grades are slipping. He's distracted. Any. Family issues. The implications stung. And that night, we argued. Our first real one since the reconciliation. They're watching us, I said, pacing the living room. Fire crackling in the hearth like accusatory pops. One wrong move, and they label you the troubled kid. Me the predator. Leo's eyes flashed. So what? We hide forever? Live like innocent Jack. Loving in stolen moments. He grabbed his coat, storming to the door. I can't do half measures. Nick. It's all or nothing. He didn't come back till morning. Apology in his frost-bitten cheeks and a bouquet of evergreens from the arboretum. I'm in, he said simply, pulling me into a hug that thawed the chill. All the way, spring brought tentative blooms, cherry blossoms along the Mona Trail, where we'd walk hand in hand, ever mindful of passing joggers. Leo aced his midterms, channeling our turmoil into a thesis on climate refugees, parallels to our own displacements unspoken but felt. I came out quietly, emails to old friends, a rainbow pin on my lanyard at work, the library staff nodding support without fanfare. Bloomington wasn't San Francisco, but it had its pockets of progress. The Unitarian Church with its affirming banners. The coffee shop on Kirkwood hosting queer open mics. The unexpected climax hit in June, during Leo's internship relaunch. A weekend field trip to the Boundary Waters in Minnesota, tracking migratory patterns. He said, but I tag along as volunteer chaperone, our cover story thin as summer air. The canoe sliced through glassy lakes under endless blue, portages heavy with packs and promise. That night, camped on a granite outcrop as loons called across the water, we made love, not with the frenzy of forbidden fruit, but tenderness, bodies entwining under stars like a constellation we'd named ourselves. But dawn brought the storm, a ranger's radio crackling with news, Sarah, in a car wreck on I-65, hydroplaning in a downpour. Minor injuries, but the call from the hospital was frantic. She's asking for Leo. And you, Nick, the drive back was agony. 8 hours of white-knuckled silence. Leo's hand gripping mine over the console. We arrived at IU Health to chaos, beeping monitors. Sarah pale in a hospital gown, bruises blooming like accusations. She reached for Leo first, tears streaming. "I'm sorry, baby, for everything." He took her hand, voice thick. "Me too, Mom." Then her gaze shifted to me, softened. "Nick, I was wrong. About you too." The lawyer called it off, the divorce. "I want family. If you'll have me." The room tilted, betrayal's echo clashing with compassion. Leo looked to me, eyes pleading for direction. My heart warred, old loyalties against new truths. The humanistic pull to forgive versus the raw need to protect what we'd forged. "I can't," I said finally, voice steady. "Not like before. But we can try. Something new. Co-parents. Friends. Maybe." Sarah nodded, exhausted relief in her sigh. "For him," Leo exhaled, squeezing my hand, a lifeline in the tempest. Summer unfurled in uneasy truce. Barbecues with Sarah at neutral ground. The park by Switchyard Trail, where she'd bring Brandon as a platonic plus one. Their reconciliation platonic now. Therapy forged. Leo thrived. His internship yielding a grant for wetland restoration. His pride swelling like the river after rain. And us, we built quietly, weekend getaways to Brown County cabins, where folk festivals thrummed with banjos and belonging, lazy Sundays at farmers markets, sampling cheeses and stealing kisses behind cider stalls. The decision was the hardest, Leo's. One August evening on the porch swing, fireflies dancing like our first sparks. "I want to stay. Nick, build this. But if it's too much," the stairs. "The what-ifs, I'll go." I pulled him close, the chains creaking our lullaby. "It's not too much. You're worth every storm." We ended not in tragedy's grip, but humanism's embrace, flawed, forgiving, fiercely alive. In America's heartland, where corn whispers secrets to the wind, two men found grace in the unconventional, stepfather and stepson, lovers and lifelines, rewriting family one tender, turbulent step at a time. And in the quiet nights, with Leo's head on my chest, heartbeats sinking to mine, I knew we'd chosen right, not easy, but true.